Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Inked Reader. Today I am filming after coming back home from work, and unfortunately the light is going and so I don't have much time, and I wanted to film this because it comes with my TBR for March for my comics, and so I need to edit this and put this up as soon as possible. So without further ado, I'm gonna go through the 9 things I have read in the month of in the month of February, and I'm gonna put them from the least enjoyable one to the most enjoyable one in terms of how much I enjoyed them, actually not necessarily in terms of objective quality. And after that I'm gonna go through my TBR for the month of March. So at number 9 I have got The Time I Got Reincarnated as Slime, volume number 2. I'll show you some of the art from the first page, so hopefully it's considered less a spoiler. And this is, I don't know, is it a humoristic fantasy series, manga series? As boobs? No, I think they're still covered enough for this to be acceptable. I love the this image on the back. And so it's a humoristic fantasy manga where basically this man is in his 40s, and then one day, by leaving the office and defending one of his colleagues, he gets killed. And he reincarnates in this slime figure in this fantastical world where he's got actually superpowers, basically. And you follow him on his adventures, this slime creature. I think the first volume was very much a novelty, but the second volume felt less interesting for me. I ended up giving, I think, around 3.5 stars. I didn't mind it was still fluffy and fun in a sense, not as much as the first volume. And for now, at least in this volume, has followed a formula of which I tend to bore quite quickly. And so I have acquired the box set, so I'm gonna read at least the first 5 volumes and then I can decide if I want to continue on or not. I don't need to love it to pieces in order for me to continue on, but because again I am putting money in this series, I need to make sure that it's something that I do want to continue on. For now, this was just okay. I think it takes a lot of tropes or Easter eggs from RPG game, which I don't play that much anymore. I used to a bit more, but again, it's the kind of games, very canonic games, that I'm not very familiar with, and so a lot of the things inside here, they are kind of bit missed on me, if it makes sense. I apologize, I gave in, switched on the lights. I know that the lighting is not the best, but it was getting too gloomy and dark and I don't want to sacrifice focus. At number 8 we have The Sandman, volume 6. Now this is something that I've kept reading now for a few months, and every month I kind of read another volume because I want to read them all, and I think it's a total of 10 volumes, so I'm almost there. Show some of the art. Now The Sandman is a very popular horror fantasy novel from the 90s by Neil Gaiman and a bunch of artists. And it's the story in the first volume at least of Morpheus, god of dream, being captured by humans instead of death and having to live entrapped in a cage basically for decades before he's able to free himself and be able to restore his kingdom and fix all the mistakes and all the issues that have arose from him being trapped away from his realm of dreams. And I would say that thus far has been a mixed bag, in the sense that I have some volumes I really liked, some volume I just liked. Volumes like this I didn't dislike, but I didn't care much about it. And in this one actually you have, I don't know, 6 short stories, and it tells you at the beginning that basically these are gonna be just short stories where Morpheus appears, but he's not the main protagonist and he doesn't have a major role. Now there are other volumes in the series where he doesn't play a major role, but this is probably the one where he is the least on page that I can think of. And unfortunately these short stories, I really enjoy the last 2 to 3 ones, the one that are more around mythology or ancient Rome. I really enjoyed those ones, but all the others I really couldn't care less about, and I found them a bit boring and kind of, they dragged on. And considering that this, yes, was a chunky volume compared to other volumes in the Sandman series, but it's still a graphic novel with the, the standard issues. I found a bit disheartening the fact that I kind of managed to also get bored in a few pages. Said that I will definitely continue on. I'm not giving up on the series, it's just that this one is probably my least favorite volume thus far of the 6 I've read. At number 7, I have Monstrous. Now this is a reread for me because I had actually read this before a couple of years ago and never continued on with the series past volume 2. And when I went and picked up volume 3, I realized that I didn't remember much especially because this is a very complex series to begin with, so I needed this reread in order for me to eventually continue on with the series. And I'm gonna show you the art in the first page, which is definitely not spoiler because this is volume 1, page 1. No, hopefully it's okay. I'll try to give you a synopsis of this, but from my gathering from reading the first volume, this is about, it's a steampunk, grim dark fantasy graphic novel. You follow Micah. Micah is partly human, partly arcanic, and in this world there is a kind of like this division between humans and arcanics. There was a major war that ended up with some catastrophic event that we started gathering from this, but it's not very much explored as of now. So there was this major breakthrough that divided these two races, and now they're not longer at war, but they're very much separated and they don't intermingle. They've got different laws, and if you kind of get in the hands of the opposite, you still probably end up dead. And as I said, you follow Micah, who's pretty much in between these two races, and she's trying to look for her mother and what happened to her mother, and she's got also something inside that she has to deal with. Now, I know that this is a very vague synopsis, but I honestly think that I would personally see as a flaw of this series is how complex this is, and unfortunately upon reread it was clearer than my first read, but I still think that it's done a bit too confusing. I have read stories that had such complex plots as well, but they were explained a bit better. I don't know if this is because it's the graphic novel format that doesn't allow much space for world building, but as of now, world building and understanding what actually is going on, it's one of the weaknesses of the series, and it's one of the weaknesses that actually put me off this series for a bit. So I read the first 2 volumes and basically couldn't understand anything, and I kind of, although the art is chef kiss, I didn't feel the pull to then go back and continue on and just being confused again and again. So rereading helps, definitely. I've got things way more clearer, but I think this is a series that I need to read every month a volume, because if I take a gap between months, I might forget. Now our main protagonist, she's very gloomy, she's very suffering internally, she's a bit of a savage if you want, kind of a anti-hero that I really enjoy her perspective and see where this is going. I don't think her unique as someone who's read fantasy in the past. I think she's a kind of character that we have seen before. However, the thing that she has inside her and all the mythology that comes with it and where this is going, that is what fascinates me the most. I think that's number 6. I hope I've not lost count. But number 6, I've got Fire Punch. This is volume number 2. I'll let you appreciate this magnificent cover. It's so pretty, and I'm gonna show you some of the art if I can, because this is very explicit and brutal and violent and horrific. Yeah, exactly, that's too horrific to show. Probably this is a bit better. Okay, so Fire Punch is by the same creator of Chainsaw Man, and that's actually why I checked this out to begin with, because I love the Chainsaw Man, and so I wanted to check out more by the author. This is a completed series with 8 volumes in total, and at the beginning you follow these siblings. They live in this very extremely grim dark world where some humans have magic, and specifically this world was ruined when this woman who had the power of freezing everything does exactly that, freezes everything. And so people are starving now, they're dying, there is no heat, there are like towns are barely surviving. And at the beginning of the story, these 2 siblings I mentioned, they help their village surviving. And I don't want to add anything else. I don't want to add how these 2 siblings help their village, because that was the first shock. Something happens to the village and these 2 siblings have to deal with a very powerful enemy. I think because it's such a like short series, I honestly think that it has to be experienced as much as possible without me giving too much spoilers. Said that it's the bleakness of this series is breathtaking. I had some moments where I was reading these and I thought, I don't know how this man could think of such horrific scenarios. Of all the fantastical world I've read about, either in graphic novels or books, this one is definitely in the top 3 of worlds where I would never ever want to live. And the movie plot in this, I don't want to give any spoilers, so if you read this you know what I mean with the movie plot. I don't know if I'm on board with it. I initially thought, oh okay, this is going downhill very fast, I'm gonna hate this, and ultimately I didn't hate it. And I kind of all couldn't decide if I found that too absurd for the context of the story, or if if actually works. I guess I will figure out in the next volumes. I really loved the ending, what the revelation we get in the ending. It made so much sense, and it just makes these so more bleak in a sense, but also makes it a bit more relatable. I don't know how I feel about our main protagonist, Annie, I think that's how you pronounce it, because I think he's a very much carbon copy of different characters I've seen before. These characters focus only on revenge and survival, and it's in that it's not unique. I would like to see more facets of him, seeing him as Annie before, you know, what he has become now, and instead is very black and white character, pun intended, since this is a manga. In a sense, I don't see much depth to him. I hope, and I'm wondering if, you know, we will get more by continuing on. At number 5 I have Doro Volume 2. Finally I could continue on with this series, which I adored in 2022. I just read the first volume in 2022, and it made it definitely on my list of my favorite reads. I'm really hoping I am doing this art justice. I don't even know how to attempt a synopsis of Doro. Our main protagonist has been transformed by a sorcerer into a huge lizard, and inside him, though, there is still a human head, and now he's gone on this path of revenge against sorcerers to try and understand also what happened to him, what is his past. And every time he captures a sorcerer, he tries to interview him and question him on who he was, or if he knew who did this to him. The main protagonist lives in the Hall, which is this part of a city where sorcerers sometimes go and get their victim for their experiments, but mostly it's like this very shitty place to live. And this is nuts. That's how you commented on, you know, how vocabulary to use to describe this series, and I agree, it's completely nuts. I think it's highly entertaining. I love the zombie plot in these. I always had the best of times with these, in the sense that it's such a like easy, quick read, so entertaining. However, I didn't love this as much as volume number 1. I still adored it in a sense, because all the elements that I loved in volume 1 were there, but somehow the mystery behind, apart from one issue in particular, wasn't much there. It was very much like, this happened and we solved it. So only one issue really made me stop and think about, oh, okay, we are going a bit farther up with the plot. Where is this going? And that I really love. I love the revelations that we get through in this. But somehow the first volume was such a huge thing for me. It was just such like finding out that I loved this series, which I never paid my attention to. And people kept saying, read it, watch it, and I kind of just put them off all the time. So when I opened up the first volume and found out absolutely myself in adoring the content, I didn't know what to expect. Also, everything was perfect. But now, because I know Doro a bit more, slightly more, just because I read one volume 2 with this, now I have standards for it. And so I think these was very high, but it wasn't as high in my enjoyment as the first volume. Said that it grew on me the more I kept distance with the volume. I think when I put this volume down, I would have rated it probably a 4. Now, a month after, because I still remember so much about the events in this, I would probably bump it up to a 4.5, if not a tiny bit more. So yeah, still very much in love with Doro. Okay, at number 5 we have Morning Glories volume 3. Now, this is a big surprise this year, because I initially read the first volume years ago and never continued on because it really didn't grip me. But now I am loving the series, as you could tell. And basically this is about this bunch of kids that they're kind of prodigies. They are best at what they do in school, and so they are chosen to attend this very prestigious, exclusive school. However, when they get there, it turns out that this school is a very dark place to be, and it's a place where you can't live. And you kind of follow different perspectives. You follow around 5 to 6, I think it's around 5 kids that have all their background history. All of them have a lot of secrets in their history, in their families. So you follow those, kind of going back and see where they come from, what they did, why they were chosen to attend this very prestigious, weird school. At the same time, you follow them trying to survive this school. And I don't know where this is going. I categorize this as a low fantasy. However, when you go online, this is more categorized as a thriller. But there are definitely fantasy, sci-fi elements. I don't know how to explain. They are very mild, but they are definitely there. So I wouldn't consider this just a thriller. but again, I'm not an expert in categorizing graphic novels or books. So I've been loving the series thus far, and this was a bit of a more chunky volume and gave me a lot of room to explore with the characters what's been going on. The mystery behind, the intrigue behind is getting more interesting. I decided to give these 5 stars. I know that maybe objectively this is not perfect, but I do honestly love it. I found that I couldn't find any flaws in this volume in particular, and it just left on cliffhanger after cliffhanger, and there was shock moments after shock moments. So it was a very entertaining and pleasing experience, while at the same time it kept me on the edge of my seat. And so yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I'm going to show you some of the art. The only thing I am a bit scared of about this series is when we'll figure out what's behind all of these, that it's a bit bullshit. Because I don't know, I don't understand why this series is not more popular, and the only thing I can think of is that eventually this big tension and the resolution of it, it's a bit shitty. Because I don't know why otherwise it's not more popular, because it should be. Thus far the quality justifies this to be way more popular than it actually is. I got the numbers wrong. So Morning Glories was actually number 4. So Vagabond is a number 3. And this is the deluxe edition, I guess. So it's a 3-in-1 edition, so it was massive. I'll show you some of the art, which was some of my favorite thing about these. I mean, I like the story, but the art was definitely something that I found absolutely breathtaking. I'm trying to find the panel. Some panels were actually in color, like these. And I love when they do these. Like, I don't think manga are missing colors, to be fair. Like, I do like the black and white, but when they do give you that spark of color, I really enjoyed. So Vagabond, finally I picked these up, and I can't wait to actually collect them, because the spines, I just saw someone having them displayed on their shelves and absolutely loved how they looked with the spines and all the different characters. So Vagabond is something that you guys have told me to pick up for ages, and finally did. And this is a historical fiction manga, and it's actually a fictionalized story of the last or the most famous samurai in Japan. And I just know that this series is incompleted, unfortunately, which is a bit disappointing, but I know that's a very lengthy and well-beloved series, and I want to give it a try. First of all, again, as I said, the art absolutely left me in awe. I was just digesting every panel and just looking at these characters and the lines and just loving it. I don't know how this man, how you can how you can draw so nicely. I'll show you some of the first pages, and as soon as I opened this up, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna love these. At least I'm definitely gonna love the art. This is the first page, which is colored. Also, the main protagonist reminds me a bit of Guts in this determination to achieve revenge. So you actually follow again this samurai who's going on a path of becoming the strongest samurai ever, and so he's kind of fighting everybody, wants to keep challenging himself with more strong opponents so he can become better, or he can prove he's the better one. I'm not sure as of now. And I have to say that there are some aspects of it that are slightly repetitive, in the sense that the whole story, pretty much, not the whole story, but majority of the story was him fighting other people in order to prove how strong he was. And I hope that these won't get too repetitive in a sense, although I'm expecting that's the main theme of the manga. So as long as I can accept that and go into this knowing that this is what's going to happen, hopefully I like it. I do love all the other side characters though, and how their lives intertwine with our main protagonist. And I really enjoyed like the end of the first volume and beginning of the second one. I don't know, I was already attached to these characters. So yeah, although I do hope for a bit more variegation in the plot and what our main characters gets up to. And it's just one of those that really I think stuck with me because of the art. Yes, the majority of manga that I read, I have stunning art, but this one in particular, it called to me more than probably any other manga I've ever read. I don't know, something about his art I love it, and I think, you know, it's different style than Miura, definitely, that wrote Berserk, but I love the way our main protagonist, the way they, for example, demons. I love how Miura does demons. Absolutely adore it, and his battle scenes. While with Inoue, I don't know how you pronounce it, I love how he does his characters as humans, if it makes sense, the most. At number 12, something that I am not surprised I loved this much, and that was Pretty Deadly, The Rat Volume 3. Now, this, from what I can remember, there is a thread of kind of some protagonists, some characters you follow throughout the volumes, but then the story in itself is self-contained in each volume. And I'm gonna just show you the first page. This has been categorized as kind of like Western dark fantasy graphic novel, and I would say probably that is very correct and to a point. What this is, I really found that Pretty Deadly is something that either works for you or it doesn't. For me, it really, really works. I think this is the right mix of folklore, mysticism, dark words, because you know you're in a very dark, bleak world. It's our world, I guess, but it's done in a very bleak way. And it's also done with a poignant and simple writing that really works. I think it's like reading a legend. That's how I would put it, probably reading a legend, a dark legend. It's very evocative of human nature, and so that's why I love it so much, because it's very mystic, but you can find a lot of food for thoughts, a lot of threads when we see in everyday life, and so that's why I love it. If I could think about a perfect scenario where, you know, having these stories told would be around a fire, maybe, you know, out camping, and someone is telling you these dark stories around the campfire. So yeah, I adored Pretty Deadly. I think again it's something that you should, if you are into graphic novels and grim dark graphic novels, you should try for yourself. I think if you don't like volume number 1, probably there is not much point in continuing on, because they are pretty much the same. Quality wise, I love the 3 of them the same. I do realize it's not for everybody, but personally I think Pretty Deadly is such an underrated series, and I also am very upset that this doesn't come out often. I don't know if I will ever put out volume 4, I have no idea, but if there ever is gonna be like a volume 4, I'm here for it. And at number 1, I had to put Lore Olympus volume 3, and I think this so far is my favorite volume. This is a graphic novel romantic series, and it's a retelling of the myth of Hades and Persephone. Let me show you some of the art. Now the whole panel, it's done in very kind of like this color scheme. It's so colorful, while at the same time, because a lot of this takes place in the underworld, it uses a lot of tonalities of blue and a lot of blue shades that I adore, and because it's then mixed with very bright pink. And so I don't know, it just works perfectly for me. I think this is the only romance, first of all, that I am truly, honestly obsessed with. I don't read romance, I don't care much about romance at all. However, for those two, I am rooting for them. I want to see what happens to them. I really, honestly cherish these characters, not only in their individuality, but also together. I really want to see. I think they are so cute, and you know, they are problematic because, you know, one is the Lord of Death and he has been alive forever, dealing with a lot of stuff forever, and she is very naive, but she's also kind of vowed to be a virgin forever in order to enter this school and getting this scholarship, and you know, a lot of things have happened to her. It doesn't feel very high stakes in the sense that, you know, it's not epic high fantasy, and yet it really feels human in a sense, and that's why I love it so much. And all the other characters you follow, I love Greek myths, that's why probably also this appeals to me particularly, but between the color, the art, that's just absolutely stunning. Like, I can't even start to describe like how much I loved the art. It's just something that I can always pick up, and always, as I said in my favorite graphic novels of the year, it's always something that I can reach out for having a good time. And I think also love that she does proper trigger warnings, and I love how she's handling slowly but steadily this relationship with all its problem, naturally, but it's done in a very tastefully cute, absolutely adorable way. So I was just in love reading this, feeling all fluffy and warm inside, and so I really felt like this deserved the number 1 spot, because it was in a very busy month, very hard month, for me, it was a moment of rest. It was a moment of just pure pleasure and enjoyment. Ready for the TBR. What I'm gonna do, because I think I kind of gave you synopsis for everything in my wrap up, but I want to kind of stick to my formula of giving a synopsis only during my TBR and not during my wrap ups. So do let me know in the comments if you hate the idea. Otherwise, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you the synopsis now of the series that I want to read, or I'm gonna read, but then when I do a wrap up, I won't. So yeah, I want to kind of go back to the original formula, if it makes sense. So I'm gonna still tell you what genre they are in, but I don't want to go into the synopsis every time I do a wrap up, unless you really want me to. Most of the series are very famous to begin with, so you probably won't need a synopsis in any case. And number one, I'm gonna read Killing and Stalking. I think that's how it's called. I've read the first chapter online, and I know there is like printed version you can get, like actually a deluxe volume, but I wasn't sure if I loved it or not, and so I tried online, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read all the issues that I can online, then make up the deluxe edition volume 1, and so then if I love it, then I can acquire the volume. If not, I can leave it down, because as of now I've read I think 4 issues, and I am on the fence with it. Basically, this is the story of this boy. He becomes obsessed with another guy in his school or classroom, I don't remember exactly which one of the two, and he starts stalking this boy. And by stalking this boy, this is really not a spoiler, all of this gets going very fast, so I'm not really spoiling anything. To go back to the plot, this boy stalking this other boy from his class finds out that this other boy is actually a serial killer, and things just spiral down. This is very dark, very mature content. I don't know how I feel about that. I need to read a bit more and then make my judgment, but yes, I want to read as many issues as they would make up the deluxe edition volume 1. Although I can't find online how many volumes or many issues, sorry, that would be, but I'm gonna scour the internet trying to find the information and then read up to that point online and then decide. It's on its way, hopefully. I've ordered a month ago. It's Vinland Saga book 3. This is a historical fiction manga that I've been really enjoying last year, and it takes place in Viking era. And you follow this boy who has to grow up with his enemy after this enemy has killed his father. And our main protagonist grows up with this conflict within himself, because he wants to fight and win over this guy who was raised him but at the same time killed his father. But at the same time, again, he's living with him because he keeps trying to fight him and never wins. So he wants to become better than him. But you know, there's a lot of resentment there, and at the same time you follow the conquest of the Vikings of other territories around in the pursuit of Vinland Saga, which I guess is this kind of promised land. So yeah, I've been really enjoying this one, and I'm gonna continue on. And then it's not here yet, I do have Summertime Rendering Volume 2, thriller, horror, fantasy manga. I'm not sure. I don't think this has many volumes. I think this is like a total of 4 volumes, but in the first volume you follow this boy who goes back to his island where he was born because one of his old classmates and friends died, and when he goes back there he finds out that there is something very dark and sinister behind the death of his classmate, and so he needs to find out what's going on the island. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. This was a bit of a crazy ride in the first volume, and I always wanted to continue on. And again, it's a very expensive series, but it should be rather short, so I should be able to consume it pretty quickly. And I'm gonna read Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 0. I think I've picked up initially Volume 1 of Jujutsu and already read it last year, and I was like debating if I wanted to continue on or just watch the manga. And then I found that for very cheap Volume 0. So my idea is I'm gonna read Volume 0, then reread Volume 1 eventually, and then continue on with Volume 2 and see what I think about it. It's a very maybe ongoing series, I'm not sure. I know that the anime is very much praised. The reality though is that nowadays I'm so busy that I don't have basically much time to watch basically anything. So yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna go around to watch the anime, if ever. So unless you tell me, you know, just watch the anime, the manga is not worth it, I'm gonna try and stick with the manga. However, I think I want to give manga around, for series I'm very eager to at least attempt, I'm gonna give them around 5 volumes and then decide. So that's what I kind of aim towards. So yeah, I'm gonna read Volume 0 of Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't remember even the plot, unfortunately. Volume 1 wasn't bad, but it really didn't stick with me at all. I just know it's about this place where there are demons, and I think it looked somehow semi-similar to Chainsaw Man, where, you know, you can become part demon. And I think there is like a part where you have to find pieces of his demon, and whoever consumes the pieces of his demon becomes super powerful. I might be completely wrong. So again, I'm gonna try and, in this case, correct myself in the wrap-up. And I'm gonna also read volume 2 of The Promised Neverland. I think I found like this website called Traveling Man, where they have kind of cheap manga volumes, and I really enjoy that, because with manga, again, they can be very expensive. And so yeah, I found these volumes for cheap, and so stay tuned for my haul. I acquired a few. So I acquired this one, and this, in the first one, you follow this bunch of kids that are orphans, and they're growing up in this orphanage with other kids, and just, you know, just being there. And they have a lovely relationship with their caretaker, and they have a very strong bond between each other. However, they realize that they can't leave this orphanage, and when you do leave, you never come back. And now you kind of live around the same age, or in a rota, basically. And now one of our main protagonists, her time, or his time, I think her time, to leave is approaching. She wants to discover what's going on, where these people go, or the other kids have left, and something very sinister happens. And I'm gonna leave it there again. I think volume 1, the end was interesting, but it was okay. It didn't blow my mind. So again, I'm gonna probably continue for around 3-5 volumes, and then see if it really picks up. I don't know if it's a completed series or not, but it might be completed, so I want to check this out. And the other one that I don't have in my hands because it's in a box ready for the haul is Dorodoro volume 3. I'm going to continue on my read of Dorodoro. I've already given you a synopsis in my wrap-ups. I'm not going to attempt again to not get repetitive in these, but yeah, I just wrapped up volume 2 in my wrap-up section, and so I'm going to continue on with volume 3. Then I'm going to try and read volume 2 of Monstrous, again another one that I just wrapped up, so I'm not going to give you a synopsis because I don't want to be repetitive at all. And so Monstrous volume 2 is happening, and at the same time another volume that I'm just continuing on from my wrap-up is volume 4 of Morning Glories, again continue on with this series, which I just wrapped up, volume 3. It's loud. And then I'm gonna continue reading volume 2 of The Rose of Versailles by Ryoko Ikeda, and this is the stunning deluxe editions. This is, I mean, I used to love as a child the anime Lady Oscar. It was called like that in Italy, so it wasn't called Rose of Versailles. It wasn't the exact translation. There are 5 books of this in total. This is a historical fiction manga, and it tells the story of Lady Oscar growing up at court prior to the French Revolution. The first volume kind of caught me off guard because the anime, it was very, I remember as a child, so again it's been 20 years since I watched the anime, but I remember it being very serious and very kind of dark, and it was like an adult anime. So my perception of it was watching something that should be for adults, and it was a very intense story. While here, while I read the first volume of this book collection, I found that very fluffy, at times silly, and it was sometimes frivolous in a sense, but then there were some snippets of dark things coming, and you know, I already know where this is going. I know how this ends, so I was a bit left off balance, but I do adore Lady Oscar. Is probably my favorite anime growing up, and so I kind of feel like I need to read the whole manga series. Drum roll please, it's happening. I'm gonna read finally One Piece volume 1. It's happening. Some of you guys told me you'll go and read One Piece, and I will, okay? I'm here to say, gonna see in the haul how come I have this in my hands, so I don't wanna say why, but you're gonna find out soon. So I'm gonna read One Piece, and now I know that everybody loves One Piece, and I was a bit hesitant initially because as a child I watched a bit of the anime and it never really clicked with me. I never loved it, but again, it's been 20 years since I watched that, and I was watching it with the eye of a kid who really didn't think about, you know, following episode after episode. I was just watching what was running on TV, and so I might have, you know, the story was a bit jumbled up, and I wanted to just do this in a manga format first of all. And yeah, it's happening. And also it's about pirates, and I love pirates, so I don't know why I shouldn't really give this a try. So yeah, it's time. I'm starting One Piece, okay? It's happening. So yeah, you might have noticed that I didn't put the Sandman in this in these, or Vagabond, is just because I try to stick to around 9 to 10 a month, because that's what it's doable for me now, and if I can read something more then I can. But I wanted to take a break from The Sandman after a bit of disappointment. I will definitely probably next month continue on, but yeah, I want to take a break. There are a lot of series I want to continue on. I am planning to do a video of all the series, manga and graphic novel series, comic series that I am in the middle of and want to continue on, but again, I can't read them all in 1 month, so I need to pace myself. So yeah, those are the ones I'm attempting to read in March. And yeah, let me know what you're gonna read in March. Let me know what was your favorite read of February. If you're new, I would love for you to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Take care of yourself. Ciao!